Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. I have Josh Boone and Charlie Heaton from the New Mutants. Guys, thanks for joining us today
Hey,
to talk about your film.
Yeah.
It's been
yeah, hey,
look,
thanks
this
for
has
having us.
been quite the journey. This is it's great
Yes, it
to have you
has.
guys here. That yeah, I mean the movie's almost at hand. So I wanted to start by asking about why you chose to adapt this particular storyline, the Demon Bear storyline. Josh,
Well, I
we'll have you
mean,
field that one.
my best friend who I wrote this with, I've known him since the day I was born. We grew up reading Marvel comics, and we were really attracted to New Mutants when we were young because it was the only comic I had really seen dip into horror in Marvel ever. The artwork was so different; it was so sort of surreal and touched on like metaphysical things that Marvel comics typically didn't touch on. I don't know. We were just sort of enamored with Bill's artwork and with the story. And I thought of it years later because we were big fans of like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and all that, and all those things sort of felt like the right things. I don't know, to tell a good story that maybe hadn't been told before in a comic book movie.
Charlie, were you familiar at all with the New Mutants before you joined the project?
Actually, no, not really. I mean, I was familiar with the X-Men franchise, but not the offshoot of the New Mutants. Not until meeting Josh. But yeah, for me, yes, similarly to kind of joining this project, I think the attraction was this kind of this contained kind of subgenre of an X-Men movie, and to tell something different and to kind of see these characters in a different space was kind of what attracted me in the beginning.
Now, I did want to ask though, how tied is the New Mutants at all to the X-Men movies? For example, the character of Magic in the comics is Colossus's sister. Is she still his sister in the movie? Is there any nod to the existing X-Men universe?
Yeah, I mean, we did, it took multiple drafts to really get this to the screen, and it's funny, it was much more connected to the X-Men universe in earlier drafts, and it became more and more of its own thing as we went along. Obviously, all the connections are still there. Illyana's still Colossus' sister and all that, but how much we pay attention to that or not is sort of dependent on where we're at in the movie. But there's certainly references to the X-Men universe, and viewers who are fans will certainly know those connections and the characters' connections to that universe, I think.
Now, there are a couple of particular characters in this film that I wanted to ask you guys about, because I know from the comics the relationship between Mirage and Wolfsbane was an important one. They had a very specific bond. Is that part of this film adaptation at all?
Yeah, I mean, it sort of inspired really where their relationship went when we wrote the script, because their relationship in the comics was telepathic, and we always felt like, Nate and I just always felt like that was had a natural way it would go on screen to help sort of facilitate what we liked about in the comic. So yeah, definitely. We tried to use, really all the characters' backstories from the comic and tried to use as much from the comic as we could, and we just sort of twisted it a little here and there to fit kind of what we were trying to do.
Josh, I believe in the past you had mentioned that this was viewed as at one point as a possible trilogy. I was wondering if you could kind of reveal or tease what the narrative plans were for that trilogy, any characters you might have introduced, that kind of thing.
Well, earlier drafts of this had Warlock in it, and he was just far too expensive for us to be able to explore in the first movie. He doubled our budget in a lot of ways, what we wanted to do with him. So we really stripped him back. So, I mean, Warlock was always the idea for the second one. We also wanted to use Karma in the second movie. And, really use a lot of stuff from Chris and Bill's run on New Mutants. And then we sort of wanted to use Inferno because it was so horror related and was like a big crossover series when I was young. I really liked in X-Men. So yeah, but that was different times back then, and nobody knew about the merger or any of those things.
I do want to ask though about the there are some characters from in this story that particularly like Wolfsbane, right? She has a belief system that kind of conflicts with having this power. She's very religious. It's almost a kind of a medieval European thing where it was like if something physically was not quite normal with you, you thought like God had smited you or something like that. Do her sort of religious convictions and that sort of internal struggle that she had in the comics, does that come into play at all in the movie?
Absolutely. I mean, I was really attracted to her character, maybe even more than the rest in terms of relating to her, because I was raised by very religious parents who believed that, you know, the rapture was going to happen and that demons and angels were real. So, like, I understood Rain in a real way and her conflict in a real way. So, yeah, we played with that stuff as much as we could. It's an integral part of her character in it, for sure.
I also want to ask, like, Josh, I believe your pitch at one point was that this is Stephen King meets John Hughes. What are sort of the Stephen King elements to this? I can imagine a few, but I'd love to hear your sort of idea of where the Stephen King influence of it all comes in here.
Well, it's fun. The Institute hadn't come out yet. You know, it was sort of even a couple of years away when we started this. So I was really thinking of Firestarter and The Shop and things like that. And just the tone of giving kids dimension and depth. We just wanted something that was not like a typical comic book movie where you'd go see it and you'd be like, well, this is really not like anything else I've ever seen. And I wanted to try to get in as much of those kind of 80s teen movies that I liked, and also even some Joss Whedon, like Buffy, kind of like that kind of flavor as well. I'm a fan of. And it all kind of fit nicely into what we were trying to do, I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much today, and best of luck with the film.